Right, so the third domain is extraversion, which I'm pretty sure all of you are quite familiar with already, diba? So we often hear in extroversion, introversion. So someone high on extroversion are people who tend to be assertive and energetic, and they like excitement and stimulation. And on the contrary, if you're low on extroversion, that means you're high on introversion. No, so let's look at all the facets under extroversion. So the first one is warmth. High scorers are affectionate and friendly, genuinely like people, and easily form close attachment to others. So these are, you're very friendly people. They when you meet them, you know that they're nice people. You kind of get that vibe from them, and it's like it's very easy to trust someone showing warmth, and so it's easy for them to develop friendships with other people, like people that they have just met for quite some time. Okay? The next one is gregariousness. High scorers enjoy the company of others. So, they like spending time with others, whether it's in small groups or whether it's in large groups of people. They just like being with other people, as opposed to someone who's more introverted, who may need to take the time out after being with a lot of people or other people for a certain period of time. The next one is assertiveness. People high on this facet tend to speak without hesitation and are dominant, forceful, and socially ascendant. And so you can look at this from both a positive and a negative. For the positive, this is someone who will not hesitate. Someone who will, talk to you in a straightforward manner, diba? And they will show you, like, if there is a need for it, they will assert their authority over you. They will show you, like, no, like, I am in control of the situation, and I'm handling the situation as necessary, diba? So in a way, that's a good thing, especially if you have a leader who's assertive, because he will make his or her points known. But on the flip side, also, this can be seen as, for example, as arrogance, as being very bossy, or maybe it's to a certain extent, no, it may also look like, a certain level of aggression, like mild aggression for some people. And also, but that's one key facet also of extroversion. Sorry for the dogs outside if you can hear them. The next one is activity. High scorers are seen as full of energy and a need to keep busy. So they're always bouncing around. They're always doing all sorts of things because they have all that ball of energy inside them that they really need to do something about. And then the other one that's closely related to that is excitement seeking. So high scorers crave excitement and stimulation, and this can be in the form of visual stimuli or all other kinds of stimuli. It can also be different activities that they engage in, for as long as they're doing something and they're experiencing different stimulations for them to feel excitement. The next one is positive emotion. So people who are extroverted tend to be able to exhibit positive emotions more easily. So it's very easy to make them laugh. They often exhibit joy and happiness in their day-to-day dealings, compared to the more like morose, I should say morose, or more like sometimes they say it's the resting bitch face, but not necessarily. But yeah, so in those who are low on introversion tend to be more reserved in their expression of emotions, and sometimes they'd only express that to selected people who they feel more comfortable with. Okay. Next, let's go to the next one because that was pretty short lang. So the next one is agreeableness. People high on this trait tend to be fundamentally altruistic and sympathetic to others and are eager to help others. So these two traits have a lot to do with and are really more about relating to other people, how we engage other people. And so when we look at agreeableness facets, one facet is trust. So high scorers are predisposed to believe that others are honest and well-intentioned. Now, take note, this does not mean that someone high on agreeableness is naive, na madaling lokohin. Not necessarily the case. It's just that someone high on agreeableness has a generally positive view of humanity. And this is an example of Rotter's locus of trust scale. I'm not sure if you've read that, but it's in the notes, where you're not necessarily easy to fool. It doesn't mean you're easy to fool. It's just that you believe that by nature people are good, and you believe that when people act, it's because of they're acting from the goodness of their hearts, and they can be trusted. Okay, so that's trust. The next one is straightforwardness. And so people who score high on this are frank, and they're sincere, and when they tell you that they care about you, they really mean it. When they tell you that, when they tell you something, you can trust that it was not done out of malice. It's something that they do because it's what they really felt and it's what they really thought. Okay? And so there's you can say a childlike innocence and a childlike honesty in that they're not gonna make any pretense to try to tell you something that they don't really actually mean. Next is altruism. People high on this facet have an active concern for the welfare of others through their generosity, consideration of others, and willingness to assist those in need. And so this is someone, if you think about Adler, diba? Alfred Adler and social interest. Diba? This is a person who, when he or she performs an action, when he or she does something, he or she always takes into consideration how this can help other people, what good it will do to other people, and society and the community in general, humanity in general. So they always have the interests of the people around them and the world around them in consideration when they are doing things, when they're deciding on things. The next one is compliance. High scorers tend to defer to others, inhibit aggression, and forgive and forget. That depends on you. So, in a way, this is very important in terms of like building, groups, relationships with groups. But when you're new to groups, it's people don't want to see you going against the rest of the group, right? Especially if you're new, because like parang, who are you? So it's really good for establishing that you can be trusted, that you are not competition, that you're there to make peace, yo. So something like that. And very often these are people who would not openly express their disappointment or their anger or disapproval of another person or a group. So in a way, it keeps the peace. But on the flip side, it's also important to consider that if you're very compliant, then you might be putting yourself at a disadvantage also. So, diba? You might risk not being able to be authentic with how you're feeling and what you're thinking, diba? And if you go back to Carl Rogers, authenticity is very important. Okay? So yeah, so also consider that. Next is modesty. People who score high on this scale are humble and self-effacing, but not necessarily. That doesn't mean they're lacking in self-confidence and self-esteem. So if you can imagine, these are people who, for example, if they've achieved something great, but you're not gonna see them brag about it, they're not gonna make a big deal out of it, they're not gonna gloss over it. Okay, so they appreciate that, if they have achievements, they appreciate that, but they won't feel the need to brandish it in front of other people and slap other people on the face with what they are capable of. Okay? Yeah. And then the next one is tender mindedness. High scorers are moved by others' needs and emphasize the human side of social policies and are concerned for others. So, aside from, like, for example, being altruistic and making decisions and thinking about the good of other people and of humanity in general, someone who's tender minded may be quite emotional, for example. So, they're the ones who parang tear up and get teary eyed when they see like videos on Facebook of people helping one another. And then when, for example, when we're making policies in school or rules or implementing things, they would always consider how other people would feel about this and how it would pain other people or how it would put a smile on people's faces. So that's tender mindedness. Okay? So those are the facets of agreeableness. The last one that we're going to cover is